Welcome to the X's and Argos film session for Game 17, Week 20 of the CFL season. My name is Ben Grant. For most film sessions this year, I've selected a theme for us to kind of explore, generally something that contributed to an Argos win or loss. But this week, there wasn't really one theme that stood out to me, so I've just selected 5 plays I felt we could really get something out of, and there were actually a ton to choose from, so this one was a lot of fun to put together. So let's take a look at what we've got here. I picked this play because, well, first I wanted to highlight an outstanding effort from Jonathan Jones, who has filled in admirably for Wynton McManus. But this play also gives us a chance to address a CFL rule that most fans probably don't know about. All right, so this is the first drive of the game. It's a critical 3rd and 4 situation from the 15. Montreal's going for it, obviously. Toronto's showing pressure. They're only going to end up sending 4, and there's a twist that's going to happen here on the end. This coverage is actually really well disguised. There's sort of 2 levels of deception. So it looks like cover 1 being sort of poorly disguised with some zone tells, and that's sort of intentional. They actually want Harris to see through the veil, I think. And so I think they want him to believe that it's going to be cover 1, meaning that Carnell IV has Regis Sebassou, who's right here. He doesn't, though. And so while Harris goes into this play thinking he's ahead of the game, having diagnosed the coverage and thinking this is cover 1, that's not what Carnell is doing. He and Peters are actually going to have sort of a bracket on Eugene Lewis here. So on the snap, Harris is going to look to Lewis. Again, he thinks his best receiver is going to be one-on-one, but then he sees Carnell drifting into the picture to take that away, so he immediately assumes Sebassou must be open. So he fires it to him. Jones steps in front and makes an outstanding pick. It's hard to tell if this ball was tipped or not. I don't think it was. It got really close to Davis's fingertips, but I don't think he was able to touch it and alter the trajectory at all. But Jones makes a heck of a catch. Now, this play was challenged for pass interference, and there was a lot of contact, but I want to show you why it wasn't called. Most people think you can jam a receiver for 5 yards, but that's actually an American rule. In the CFL, you only get a yard. They'll usually give you 2, but you only technically get a yard in which to make contact with the receiver. So press man, you just don't see a lot of in the CFL. There's also the waggle, which makes it more difficult too. So here, we've clearly got contact more than a yard or 2 downfield. So why wasn't it called? As a defender, you have the right to fight off a receiver who is threatening your position, your space. This space belongs to Jones, and he defends it. He's allowed to. He then follows Sebassou in coverage, and then he makes a heck of a catch and run to alter this game in the early stages. But this was a correct no call because you've got a defender who is simply defending his space. He's allowed to do that, and then he turns and makes an incredible play. This is another crucial stop for Toronto, again in the early stages, 3rd and goal from the 1. And you might remember a few weeks back, I did a film session on short yardage, and I highlighted Montreal as being one of the best in the league at it. Here, they decided not to go with the QB sneak. They want to try and run it instead. I think this is a terrible decision. They've got one of the best short yard specialists in the game in Dominic Davis. And I just think taking the extra time to hand the ball off, to get depth, all that allows is for things to go wrong in the middle. So let's take a look at what happened here. This is just going to be a middle dive, but I want to highlight 3 different Argos. So we'll watch this 3 different times with a spotlight on a different player each time. So let's start with Hendricks first. He's going to fire out and get his body sideways with as much penetration into the backfield as he can. And this is going to jam up the middle. This is a really old tactic. It seems almost military, like something you might do to slow down advancing tanks. You're basically just launching your body and getting horizontal so that you trip everybody up. and nobody in the interior can make hay here. So he's the reason that these bodies start to pile and start to stack. All right, let's rewind. And this time we're going to watch Robbie Smith. He's the hero on this play. If I had any ability to tell a story properly, I'd probably end with Robbie Smith, but I'm putting him second because chronologically, that's sort of what happens on this play here, even though he is the hero. He's the second man in. So he's going to end up taking Nick Callender, who's like 320 pounds, and he drives him off his position into the hole that Antwi is going to be trying to run to. So like in this play, if you don't have this giant offensive lineman plugging up this hole, Antwi scores. But instead, he ends up running full steam into the back of his own blocker, 2 gaps away from where he's supposed to be. And so, yeah, that completely messes up the play. This is the play here. This is where it really got shut down. But there's a third step to it. Let's take a look at that one now. All right, Enoch Mwamba. Focusing in on him, Enoch Mwamba has a little bit of patience to this because he can't initially affect the surge. He gets in there a little bit. But as Antwi looks to score off a second effort, watch how Mwamba picks him up and comes in, not with his helmet or body, but with his arms fully extended because he knows that Antwi only needs a few inches from where he is. His body and his helmet won't get there in time. His hands will. So he fully extends to keep Antwi off the goal line with a flying stiff arm. And this is such veteran savvy to have the wherewithal to be able to do that in the context of a play in a few seconds. And this is just a wonderful move from Mwamba to close it off. So you got Hendricks, you got Smith, you got Mwamba. It's rarely one guy when a team makes a stop like this. And it's far more than these 3 on this play. But these 3 individuals made an outstanding play from outstanding effort. All right. So I know you're staring at the wrong game here, but I want to show you something first. I've been waiting for a long time for the Argos to play the Alouettes so that I can show you why Chandler Worthy had very little success returning the football in Toronto, was cut, and then promptly became a very good return man in Montreal. And I don't know if there's a name that I've heard more all season from Argos fans with the punt return game struggling as much as it has in Toronto. People keep saying, well, why did they cut Chandler Worthy? Look at him in Montreal. Well, let me show you why. So it's not so much why they cut Chandler Worthy. It's just more why Chandler Worthy wasn't what he is in Montreal when he was in Toronto. So this is going to be a Brandon Banks punt return from earlier in the season against Hamilton. Let's take a look at the setup here. So we got 2 guys on the boundary gunner. The Argos are absolutely setting up a return here. They're not going after the ball. They're trying to make as much space for their returner, Banks. All right, I'm going to pause it right at the moment that Worthy gets the ball. So this should be a huge return. Hamilton's punter outkicked his coverage for one. And number 2, it's a return that's set up. This is the kind of punt that should come all the way back. But the Argos haven't been able to block anyone downfield, and that is the issue here. Take a look at what we've got. Look at the Hamilton Gunners, the Hamilton coverage team getting downfield, and nobody is there blocking them. They have all lost their guy. It has nothing to do with the returners. Banks, Leak, Hadel, Brissett. There's not much different between them and Worthy, but when you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 blockers chasing their guy as you catch the ball, there's nothing you can do. So Banks makes a man miss. He does as well as he can, but he's swarmed by Ticats and ultimately doesn't really get much of a return. This is what the return game has looked like this season for the most part for the Argos. All right, now back to the Montreal play. So the Argos are punting to Worthy, and the Alouettes, they aren't trying to set up a return. They're actually coming after this one. So Haggerty gets it away, and I'm just going to freeze it at the same point here, and let's take a look at what we've got. Look how different this is. 4 Argos downfield fast in a flat line. That's what you want to see from your cover team, but look at the Montreal blocking. All 4 Alouettes are in between the return man and the cover team. And then if I let this play here, you'll see a 5th come into view, and he gets picked up as well. So that's going to end up leaving Worthy one-on-one with Declan Cross in open space. And so, of course, you're going to get a great return out of this. There was very little left for Worthy to do. It was an automatic 10 yards without even asking a question. And then he's going to, find some space after that, because it's so much easier once you build up momentum, once you get to an area of open field. The key is those blocks that set it up, those first few guys downfield, keeping them off your returner. If there's one area that I want the Argos to target this offseason, it's finding players who can pick up blocks in the open field on special teams. It is such a disadvantage in the CFL when you can't get any yardage on punt returns and your opponent can. All right, this is a well-disguised coverage. This looks like it might be cover 2 pre-snap, maybe quarters, but it's actually going to be cover 1. And the reason that it doesn't look like one pre-snap is because of Tyrese Beverett, who's way back here. He's actually got Alouettes, and he's going to come charging in to pick up Alouettes in man coverage. But him back here at the snap of the ball does add to a bit of a disguise. Now, as soon as Bethel Thompson recognizes man, he knows where he's going. Gittens Jr.'s got a shake route here. DeVaris is clearing wide. And shake routes are really tough to stay with in man coverage. That's why Bethel Thompson's looking to him from the beginning. Forget the fact that it's also his favorite target in Gittens Jr. But with that route, knowing it's man, that's where he's going to go. Wesley Sutton does a really nice job staying with him through the double move. He actually starts kind of running the route for him. But this is where you get that level of trust between a quarterback and his top target. Bethel Thompson will always take Curly Gittens Jr. in man coverage against anyone. Gittens has his head around, Sutton doesn't, and so Bethel Thompson has the luxury of being able to kind of throw it anywhere, knowing that his guy is going to pick it up first. So he throws it behind Gittens Jr. intentionally because there's no space out in front. And watch this amazing adjustment. And this is the adjustment that MBT had faith that Gittens was going to be able to make. And this is just great body control as well. Gittens Jr. went over 1,000 yards in this game, but he's only got 5 touchdowns on the season. A lot of them are plays like this one where he had to do the work. 70-yard touchdown, 39-yard touchdown. He's just not getting those short goal line targets. He's got to make fantastic plays to get in the end zone, just like he did on this one. Now, this is a Markeith Ambles touchdown, and these are the ones that Gittens doesn't get, the 2-yard touchdowns like this. This is a really nice play from Ambles, but this is also a touchdown that belongs to Coach Dinwiddie. I've talked about how well Coach Dinwiddie designs plays that take advantage of another team's film study, and this play is another great example of that. So in the second half of this season, we've seen a lot of handoffs to Alouettes with jet sweep action where the receiver sort of kicks out the end. And we've also seen on these plays, McLeod Bethel Thompson motion receivers around to either bring in another blocker or to take a man away from where the play is going. And here he gets a look at the defense first, and then he brings Neal across to the far side. So in the cadence, Alouettes moves from right to the left, and then Ambles starts to waggle in. And now the entire defense is thinking, Oulette's getting the ball. They've seen this play half a dozen times, but they know that there really are only a couple options here based on their film study. Then at the last second, Ambles cuts back into the flats, and he's got out in front of him 3 guys with a hat on a hat. There's no way the safety is going to be able to get here in time. It's cover 1, and if you watch, let's just go back to the beginning of this play here. If you watch Montreal pre-snap, you can see the problem unfold for them. So they don't travel with Neal. They bounce coverage along the line from this guy to this guy to this guy as he runs across the formation. And then when Ambles starts to waggle in, by now, Neal is going to be covered by the corner, and then it sort of balances out. And on Ambles' waggle, Awe tells Beverett to take cross. And when he turns back out, Awe gets stuck in the middle here because he can't abandon what he is sure is going to be middle run. And that's going to leave the Argos with numbers on the outside. This is a thing of beauty. Beautiful setup. beautiful execution. They completely sold the idea of getting kneeled across the field for strategy for that Alouette run, and instead it's to get an extra blocker out there for ambles. Really nicely set up by the Argos. We covered a lot of different topics today, which is what I love about just picking 5 different plays. And there was so much interesting football that we saw in this game. I could easily have made this a 15-play video, but I think 5 will do us just fine for now. Thank you so much for watching this X's and Argos film session. My name is Ben Grant. I'll see you next time.